My name is Yumnah Jackson and I'm a grade 10 student at Bridgetown High, and my topic is how the formation of the community-based organizations that were affiliated to the UDF affected our community. The reason why I chose this topic is because I love history. I enjoy learning about the past, and since I was born in the era of democracy, I thought that it would be good for me to learn more about the struggle for democracy that we now enjoy. I thought doing this topic would give me an opportunity to explore the past, try to understand it better, and appreciate what my family and community went through. My key question is how the formation of the UDF and its affiliates had an impact on the community in the fight for democracy. In my presentation, I will be dealing with the formation of the United Democratic Front, the aims of the UDF, mass mobilization, UDF success, state repression, and the walk to freedom. The UDF was launched in Rocklands Mitchells Plain on the 20th of August 1983. Dr. Lionel Lowe, who was a member of the Council of Churches and one of my interviewees, described the formation of the UDF as finding a common ground for people of different faiths, people of different age groups, and people of different sex. The UDF was a movement and consisted of a number of different organizations like the trade unions, civic organizations, women's organizations, youth organizations, religious organizations, student organizations, and sports organizations. And all these organizations were fighting apartheid and injustice. Cheryl Carolus, who grew up in the same community as I, one of my interviewees, and an executive member of the UDF, remembered that it was first the women that came together with the formation of the UDF, and then the civic organizations followed. The banning of the ANC in the early 60s created a leadership vacuum, and the formation of the UDF gave leadership to the people at the right time. The UDF unified the community to actively resist apartheid. Dr. Lionel Lowe from the Council of Churches and one of my interviewees recalled the first mass action campaign was against the government's formation of the tricameral parliament. The tricameral parliament consisted of 3 levels, one for coloureds, one for whites, and one for Indians. Blacks were not included, and the people rejected this outright. The UDF had grassroots support, and therefore they were successful in the community when they called for a strike or boycott. To mention but a few of the many campaigns that the UDF and its affiliates called for were the Council of Churches, a group of clergy who stood on the side for justice, called for international sanctions against South Africa, and that was only one of the many campaigns. Congress of South African Students called a protest for students to establish a SRC at schools. COSATU workers took to the streets for a living wage and better working conditions. Other boycotts were the consumer boycotts of white-owned businesses, which was called because the UDF felt that the businesses were supporting the government, and therefore they called for the consumer boycott to make economic difference. And the bus boycott, buses went empty as people chose to walk, get a lift, or take a taxi to work. Lyndon Nkomo recalled that if we didn't have the boycotts, we would not have achieved anything, and we would not have had our freedom. The government introduced a state of emergency, and Phyllis Orner recalled that the state of emergency was there, but it didn't have a huge impact. Public gatherings and meetings were banned, and people made use of churches and mosques to deliver the message. People were harassed, their telephones were tapped, they received death-threatening telephone calls in the middle of the night, and demonstrations and meetings were spied on. Nick Henhood, former COSATU secretary, and one of my interviewees recalled the 80s as the most violent and brutal period. He also recalled the black-on-black violence between the militant youth and the migrant workers, which were called the Watuka. The reason why they were called the Watuka was because they wore white arm or headbands. Police who came in to defuse the situation often ended up worsening the situation. In 1988, the UDF was banned. The ban did not crush them. It only drove them to fight the resistance from underground, and they re-emerged as the mass democratic movement, which was less structured than the UDF. During this time, the repression and resistance increased. The state of emergency allowed the police to arrest people and hold them in prison or police cells indefinitely. People were arrested and constantly tortured by police. Dr. Lowe recalls, when police came and arrested him, it didn't unravel him. He didn't like it, but he understood it to be part of the struggle. Cheryl Carolus recalls how her family and neighbors were terrorized and threatened to find out where she was. She remembered how close to death she came while in detention, when she was taken to a flight of stairs and threatened by police to be thrown down the stairs. Both Dr. Luckett and Cheryl recalled how people they knew well died in detention. Many people in the community became politicized through participating. Mothers and housewives took to the streets to protest against police brutality after several students were baton charged at schools. By 1988, the government could no longer contain the situation, and the UDF set the tone for negotiation, but argued that they cannot enter into negotiations unless the government unbans all political leaders and organizations. Nelson Mandela was the last political prisoner to be released. Phyllis Orner recalled how she felt at the event of democracy. The people's resistance had paid off, and we saw the culmination of the hard work come together. On the 27th of April 1994, South Africa came out in full force to finally dismantle apartheid. In summing up my key question, how the formation of the UDF and its affiliates had an impact on the community in the fight for democracy was through unifying the community and actively resisting the government through mass actions like strikes, boycotts, and campaigns. And whilst the government suppressed them with legislations, detentions, and introducing the state of emergency, the community rose. Eventually, they entered into negotiation, and today we enjoy our democracy. My self-reflection. Doing this oral history project gave me a broader understanding about the past, an opportunity to speak to people about the past, an opportunity to feel what the past was like, and an opportunity to work with historical data and sources. Nelson Mandela said, "Let us never be unmindful of the terrible past from which we came." In doing my interviews and choosing my topic gave me insight into that past.